Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing another traditional draft of the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Without further ado, let's just get into the draft. I'm really not a fan of this opening pack. There's basically nothing in here I would normally want to pack one, pick one. We've got a solid uncommon with Neek and Zeal, but that does immediately tie us into a two-color pair, which I don't like doing early. Plus, green-blue is not the strongest color pair in this format. It's pretty far from it. There's a Hermetic Nautilus, which is fine. It hits a good card type, being an artifact for any craft with artifact cards, and a creature for craft with creature stuff, and just attacking and blocking in general. Might go with this. I'm not a huge fan of the Get Lost removal spell, because it does give your opponent a lot of value. You are putting yourself kind of down. Basically a card here. 2 map tokens is kind of worth an entire card. So while it is really efficient if the game goes long enough for your opponent to use the map tokens you're falling behind, basically none of these commons are high picks, so I'll just go with Hermetic Nautilus, I guess. But that was a very weak starting pack. Pack 1, pick 2 is much different. This pack is much, much better. We've got 2 really premium uncommons between the Geological Appraiser out of red, being a 4-mana 3/2 that discovers 3 for a nice 2-for-1 spell, and Spring-Loaded Sawblades, which is a 2-for-1 removal spell. It's going to blow up an opponent's creature and also become this really beefy vehicle, a 5/5 that crews for only 1 power. So I like both of these a whole ton. And we could really take either, honestly. They're both super premium cards. I'll go with the Spring-Loaded Sawblade since we have started with an artifact here. Maybe head towards blue-white artifacts, blue-white craft. That kind of archetype could be a great place to start off. Pack 1, pick 3 now. We've got Waylaying Pirates to stick to blue-white. That's got a great enter the battlefield effect. Galta's a million mana, so not the greatest spell here. There's not too much else in the pack. Guardian of the Great Door is fine. It is quite expensive. Basically a 6-mana 4/4 flyer, but you can tap a bunch of your nonsense on board to help cast it. So if you have a bunch of these craft with artifact spells, then they can help cast it because they're basically spells. Like this is an instant speed removal spell that also leaves you with an extra permanent on the board just sitting around, and now you use all those extra permanents to cast this Guardian a little cheaper, so I guess that's pretty synergistic. That might be fine here. Could also take Atali's Favor as one of the best cards in the pack. Just a nice aggressive card, buffing up your board and making it even wider if you can discover into a creature off of that Discover 3. So pretty great card in aggro decks, but we'll stick to white here. Grab the Guardian of the Great Door. Pack 1, pick 4, another just infinitely expensive dinosaur, which these cards have just not played very well in the format, sadly. You do need a lot of stuff early on the curve, and for your top-end cards, you'd much rather have cards that are flexible that still do something early, like craft cards, where it's like a 2-mana spell, but then also it can be your late game, 4-mana 5/5. There's other craft cards that fit that bill a little better, like the Stone Tree, that's a 3-mana mana ramp spell and a 6-mana finisher. But yeah, just like 8-mana spells are just not well positioned in this set. It's really nothing for blue-white here, so we are speculating on another color no matter what we do. I guess I could just rare draft the Gishath. Best card on color would just be the Sandwing, I guess. I don't know, I'll just stick to the Sandwing here. I don't think there's anything great off color there either. Pick 5, there's the best white common, Oltec Cloud Guard. 4-mana 3/2 flyer that comes with a 1/1 gnome. That gnome can help block, it can craft our artifacts, can do just a lot of great work. And haven't seen anything excellent out of the blue here, but white is still looking decent here with a pick 5 Cloud Guard. So we might think about a different secondary color, but pretty happy about our white so far. For pick number 6, there is literally no blue in this pack. Green-white and red-white are both pretty decent. Black-white I haven't really had any luck with, that whole sacrifice kind of archetype. A lot of the sacrifice spells have just been too much mana and too fiddly to play super well. But red-white has been a great tapper kind of deck, and green-white is just an aggro deck in general that uses cards like Staggering Size to overrun your opponent. So I don't think either of these cards are good in red-white. I don't think Infantry is anything above just a low-level filler card, so I'll just grab a Staggering Size, speculating towards if we get pushed to green-white here. Pick number 7. Well, some late black spells could be a reason to be in black-white. I don't think Bartolome, while it is the strongest sack outlet in the set, plays incredibly well just because none of the sack cards have done super well for me. Whereas Visage of Dread is just a good card, period, no matter what black deck we put it in. I think that would probably be the best way to build black-white in the format, because I've tried the sacrifice synergies a couple times. The only time I've gotten them close to working well was during the Alchemy set, where they put in a bunch more sacrifice payoffs out of the Alchemy cards. So they like buffed the sack archetype a bunch during the Alchemy draft, and it still was just like fine. So I think if we do get pushed into black-white, the best spot to be would just be a bunch of very good black spells, a bunch of very good white spells. Don't try to specifically build around sacking. For pick 8 now, there is a late volatile Wanderglyph. I like this card a lot for any red deck, particularly in red-white, because you tend to have a lot of craft with artifact cards, and a lot of stuff that can tap this without it attacking, so you can get that trigger going even more. I really like the Wanderglyph, so I'm going to take it here, but we could also take the Tithing Blade, sticking towards that black-white kind of deck. Pick number 9. Mostly nonsense, but Acrobatic Leap is a fine combat trick, Echo of Dusk is a fine filler creature. Offering can be okay when you've got a bunch of expendable map tokens or treasure tokens to sacrifice. Just take the Acrobatic Leap. Pick 10, there's another Burning Sun Cavalry if we just need a filler 2-drop out of red. Vito's Inquisitor is one of those sacrifice cards that really has not paid off well. This is very slow. Very restrictive. We get in a matchup where the game goes super, super long. I guess we could throw in a Swashbuckler's Whip out of the sideboard, since we are in 2 out of 3. Easy Archaeologists here. Fine filler card if you have some ways to have artifacts ending up in the grave. The easiest way to do that is to just have a chunk of artifact creatures that'll trade off during combat. I really don't like Thousand Moons Crack Shot. I don't actually hate Unlucky Drops, so I'll grab that just in case. Alright, pack number 2. What do we got here? We've got Magmatic Galleon, so a fantastic red rare. We are only 1 card deep into red, but we're only 1 card deep into basically any secondary color. And this card is incredible. It's a removal spell and a very beefy creature all in one. Plus the removal spell gives you a treasure token most of the time. So plays really, really well. Take the Galleon here. I'd be really happy to wheel any of these white cards, the Cloud Guard or the Guardian of the Great Door. But this pack is so good, I think we'll get something decent back. Between a Cloud Guard, a Guardian of the Great Door, or an Idol of the Deep King, a Sunfire Torch, or a Plundering Pirate, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards that I'd be perfectly happy to put into this deck if we end up in red-white. And I think we can get one of them back at least. So let's grab the Galleon there. Pack 2, pick 2 is pretty awkward because there's 0 white cards in the pack. So somebody took a white common here over everything else. They must have taken a Cloud Guard or something. We're going to get cut off of white this pack. It's awkward. Could take a Tali's Favor out of red and just lock in here, or we could stay a little open and take Malcolm as an incredible blue rare. 2 cards deep into red, 2 cards deep into blue. It's late enough now, we need to pick our lane pretty quickly here, but we have enough white spells and a little bit of colorless that I don't think I need to pick it right now and just slam dunk into Tali's Favor. So I'll take Malcolm, but I do think we need to cut black and green and just not toy around with more than like 3 colors that we're trying to choose from here. So let's grab Malcolm. Pack 2, pick 3. Tinker's Tote makes the cut no matter what, because we're going to be in white for sure, so I think we take that over Plundering Pirate. Little sad we don't get to be in blue-red here, because Captain Storm is an incredible blue-red rare. We could try to get a bunch of treasure tokens to splash in the Captain Storm, that's just going to make it really inconsistent mana-wise. I don't think Captain Storm is going to be splashable here. And generally, 2-drops are not the most splashable things ever, because Captain Storm, like most 2-drops, infinitely more impactful on turn 2 than on like turn 7 or 8 after you've found your off color of mana. So yeah, white is 100% a core color here. I don't think we can pivot to blue-red. I think we take Tinker's Tote. Now there's Inverted Iceberg out of blue, Dreadmaw's Ire and Goblin Tomb Raider out of red. Do like Inverted Iceberg a lot. Okay, see my creature curve out of white here. We've got 2-drop creatures in blue, which helps the mana curve a lot. I try to pick blue over red here. It's a little awkward, because I think Galleon's better than Malcolm. Iceberg is better than these red cards, in my opinion. Maybe Dreadmaw's Ire's better. I'm gonna go Iceberg, though. Alright. Works out super well, because now we get the Master's Guide mural. 5 mana 4/4, and later in the game, once we're at 7 mana, we can start spinning out a 4/4 every turn, as long as we're getting another artifact to enter our battlefield. So the turn we flip it, the Manufactory has entered the battlefield and we spit out a 4/4. After that, though, we'll have to play an artifact creature, get a treasure token, something like that, to get another 4/4 from then on. But that's late enough in the game. You only need to trigger that 1 or 2 times, usually, to win, so pretty fantastic blue-white uncommon, and that lets us commit to this direction and start really narrowing out this deck. Filing off the rough edges, getting it all where it needs to be. So pack 2 picks 6. I do think we need more 2-drops, even though I don't like Thousand Moons Crackshot. There's really nothing else in the pack that I do like. Outside of Archaeologists, maybe, sort of Idol of the Deep King, if we were still towards red. Okay, pick 7. Love me a Tinker's Tote. Gives me some gnomes to tap for any of the tapper kind of stuff, like the Guardian of the Great Door. And it gives me an artifact in my graveyard to craft with. Or 3 artifacts on board to craft with. You can always craft something off the board. Deconstruction Hammer's good as well, but I think Tinker's Tote's a little higher of a pick, especially because we don't have a ton of flyers. We've got 2 mainly. I guess there is a Guardian of the Great Door, but these big high mana value flyers don't really need the hammer to get good, for lack of a better term. Whereas Malcolm and like Cloud Guard do get a pretty significant buff from +1/+1. Pick number 8 is basically nothing. I already have 1 Acrobatic Leap, so I guess I will speculate on the Pirate Hat, which can be a fine way to start looting throughout the game. If you've got a good chunk of pirates, the main one you would want is the Siren Pirate. The 2 mana 1/2 Flying Vigilance. And the Rozka Puzzle Door is perfectly fine in these blue-white craft decks, because this one can draw you a card in the early game and leave you with that artifact engraved to craft with. It is worth noting, there was that pack I was pretty sure I was going to wheel something good in red or white, and I think all we got was the Idol in that pack, or maybe even nothing, so red and white were being pretty heavily contested, except that nobody wants Goblin Tomb Raider, which is weird. Well, I do. Even if it's just in the sideboard. Alright, not a bad spot at all. We certainly have some filler, like Thousand Moons Infantry, Thousand Moons Crackshot, Glorifier, Sandwing, oops. But we're only 3 cards away from a complete deck here. So, if we find 6, 7, or 8 playables in this last pack, then that means we get to cut these filler cards and improve the deck quite a bit. So, don't hate this spot. Don't hate this spot at all. For pack 3, pick 1, we can grab a second Guide Mural, we can grab a second Cloud Guard, we can grab a first Petrify, or we can grab a Kellen. We are not going to get any of these cards back, but they are all great. We actually don't have a ton of 3 mana or less creatures in our deck, and we're not going to splash in green, so I think we give up on Kellen here. But a second Guide Mural or a Cloud Guard would be phenomenal creatures, but we're also low on interaction with just 2 unlucky drops for the most part, so Petrify should be a pretty high pick here as well. It's a hard choice, but I really, really do like Old Tech Cloud Guard to the point where I will take it over a bit more interaction here. Pack 3, pick 2. Well, this pack really sucks for us. There's just nothing that we want. Really nothing we want. We can play the Landmark as a very filler 3-mana 1/4 flyer, but that's only if we can craft that early in the game. It's a second puzzle door, which I'm just not going to play. Maybe Cartographer's Companion, spitting out that map token is fine. But it is quite filler as well. Yeah, I guess I'll go with that. Pack 3, pick 3. Adaptive Gem Guard is fine filler. We've got plenty of permanents that we can put all over the board here to get tapping to put those counters on it. And there's really nothing else in blue-white. Pick 4, we do get some interaction with the Cosmium Blast. It's not premium interaction, but we do need a little bit of removal, so we'll grab it. Pack 3, pick 5. I'm not going to play a Cave Worm or Hurl into History. Already got 1 leap, so let's grab a Hidden Courtyard here. And a Hidden Cataract. Yeah. I don't love my mana curve right now. Guess I'll take another 2-drop. Like, worst case scenario, we sideboard it in when we're feeling really out aggroed. Ooh, Cogwork Wrestler, I like this a lot. Great little combat trick that's also an artifact to craft away later in the game. Take that over another Iceberg here. I think I can. I think we're doing pretty good on top end. Got some beefy flyers. We've got 1 Iceberg for the 6/6, and we've got a Manufactory for a bunch of 4/4s. I think I could take Wrestler over Iceberg. Take another Archaeologists. But I think that just goes straight into the side for now. We get a second Guide Mural, okay. Well, now we do really have the late game all locked up. Now just take some on-color stuff for sideboard options. Alright, so we just need to cut 4 cards out of here to call it a deck, so let's sort things by the actual mana curve, get this Guardian up there high on the curve. Check the creature to non-creature, we're at 14 creatures. We'll keep it nice and simple and go to like 15 to 17 creatures being the average here, so 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 right now when you count double Guide Mural, double Tote. So we can cut 1 to 3 creatures if we want, so let's grab the most filler creatures and set them aside as potential cuts. I think those are the most filler of all the creatures. Oh, we've got an Iceberg as well. So we're at like 19 creatures right now, so we want to cut 2 to 4. I actually kind of like Glorifier in this deck. I think we've got a good amount of gnomes and maps and stuff, especially with double Tinker's Tote. So yeah, I think it's these really for the creatures we maybe cut. Maybe this, maybe a Sandwing. But for non-creatures, now let's put a few of these more mediocre ones aside, like Swashbuckler's Whip. I think we just sideboard that in really slow matchups. We're on Cosmium Blast, Spring-Loaded Saw Blades, double Unlucky Drop for removal. That's perfectly fine. Maybe the Pirate Hat as another potential cut. So, yeah, I'm really not a fan of these equipments, the Whip and the Hat. So let's just cut those immediately and then cut 2 of these creatures. So let's put things in based on mana curve where I want some stuff. I think I put the Crack Shots back in. I've got double Guide Mural here at 5 mana. But I do have some great targets for Archaeologists, so I kind of think I can just bring them back in. I do have 4 3-drops at least off of double Tote. I think I can do like this. But with the Archaeologists, it's like we have double Tinker's Tote, which will end up in the grave, and we've got some artifact creatures like Gemguard, Companion, Nautilus that could end up in the grave to get picked up by the Archaeologists. We also have the Puzzle Door we can pick up and redraw a card. I think the Archaeologist looks perfectly fine in here, and we can call it a deck here. So here's a look at our final deck list for today. We're on another blue-white craft deck. With these kind of decks, you get to have a really good mid-range game plan where you just play a relatively aggressive curve. Our deck here didn't really get there on the aggro curve, but we still got a decent amount of 2-drops and 3-drops for blocking in the early game. The thing that's really nice about these craft decks is if you have that super aggressive curve at the start, you basically always have the late game locked up as well, because you have cards like Inverted Iceberg that flip into 6/6, the Manufactories that are turning into these gigantic 4/4s every single turn. Tons and tons of top end here. So by having plenty of little 2-mana, 3-mana creatures, you've got great things to do throughout the game, and your deck is nice and flexible with a lot of 2-for-1 spells where it's like this is a card draw spell early and then a 6/6 late game. This is a 4/4 in the mid game and then many 4/4s in the late game. A bunch of stuff like that. So that's the general blue-white craft archetype guidelines there. You want to have a good amount of artifacts so that you can exile an artifact from your grave in the late game to flip these. Some great ones to do that with are the Orazka Puzzle Door and the Tinker's Totes because they naturally put themselves in your graveyard. The Cogwork Wrestler's an excellent one, a combat trick early that then dies and gives you that artifact in your graveyard to craft with. So lots of great synergies with this deck. Not a whole ton of super powerful spells, like no bombs or anything really, just like the one Malcolm for rares. But overall, really consistent, perfectly solid looking blue-white craft deck. We'll see how it plays out for us as we head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are for game 1 of round 1 on the play. We've got Crackshot into Cloud Guard with his Saw Blades in the middle if our opponent has a great aggressive 2-drop to swing at us. Let's see what we're in for here. Our opponent is going to start off with the Plains and the Otaclan Landmark to get a little bit of scrying, and eventually they can flip that into the 1/4 flyer that sends something else into the sky every time it attacks. Got the removal for that if that's going to be a problem, but I don't think it's going to be particularly scary. We'll see though, it really depends on what creatures they have to throw into the sky alongside it. It is going to be a blue-white mirror match, and now they have the Inverted Iceberg, so they've got a really good late-game setup already, plus an excellent mill for them. They milled an artifact so that the landmark can flip next turn if they need to. We have drawn into a Puzzle Door, and I'm just going to cash this in. I will wait until their end step, just in case of some really weird stuff, and they play like a really good tapped creature. Maybe they'll Zoetic Glyph up one of their artifacts, beat in with a 5/4, and then we kill that before we take damage. But I will be using this Puzzle Door to guarantee we hit our 4th mana for the Cloud Guard. Waterlogged Hulk. Alright, a lot of self-mill going on here, so they are definitely going to have plenty of artifacts in that grave to exile, such as Buried Treasure. Alright, cash this Puzzle Door in for the 4th land, and slam down a Cloud Guard while they're still not playing creatures, and we've top-decked another one, so we're going to have a real aggressive couple turns here. Get a bunch of flyers on the board and a couple 1/1s on the ground too. They do have to consider flipping a landmark just to block now, since we do have 6 power on the board. It'd be pretty bold for them to just spend all their mana like drawing a card again. Well, that's what they're going to do. Spend all their mana, draw 3, discard 1. So they've got excellent card draw in their deck. They're very good at filling their graveyard as well. So we're really just hoping they don't have like board wipe bomb rares. I don't think we can really afford to play around them in game 1 though. We should probably just be trying to beat down as quickly as possible, because the longer that this game lasts, the more likely they are to have the mana to start flipping all these artifacts, and then they're already just way ahead in card advantage off of all the spinning wheels they've got going on over there. So I'm just dumping the hand out, getting as aggressive as I possibly can to make the list of ways they can get out of this as small as possible. Make it so it just has to be like a bomb rare board wipe or something. Or they are dead. Otherwise, we could be in a position where they just draw enough cards that they can find themselves doing something like double petrify our Cloud Guard and our Crack Shot, and then Cogwork Wrestler to kill both, well, to stop one of our 1/1s from hitting them and kill the other 1/1. Something like that. They do have the mana for that, hypothetically. Double Petrify plus Cogwork Wrestler. But we are going to win that game. Our opponent just does not play a single creature all the way through turn 5 there, so just curving out is going to win the game there with basically any color pair, no matter what our deck was. If we just played 2-drop creature, 3-drop creature, 4-drop creature, we would have won that game. And all we really did was 2-drop, 4-drop, 4-drop. So, yeah, that was less about our deck being really good and more about our opponent just dirtling around. Just not a fantastic hand for them. Like, they milled their creatures, they milled the Tinker's Tote, they milled the Cave Worm. Awkward draw for them. I don't think we really have a sideboard for what we've seen here, because nothing we've seen here is really all that threatening. Nothing we have to worry about specifically. So, like, yeah, we haven't seen a ton of interaction. Want to give our whole board hexproof or anything like that. We haven't seen a bunch of stuff we want to get reach against. We don't need more unlucky drops or an out-of-air counterspell. We're just gonna run it back, see how things go in game number 2. Alright, well, we do have to start down a card here, naturally, because we open up with a 0 lander, so Mold of 6 it is, but we are on the draw, which can make up for that. Our opponent starts with the turn 1 Waterlogged Hulk to fill that graveyard again for all their craft cards. Once they hit 4 mana, that flips into a vehicle if they want it to, but not really till they've descended 8 is it a super duper terrifying vehicle. I mean, a 4/4 that crews 1 is kind of spooky. Alright, and they've got the Buried Treasure down as well, so they'll be able to really, really cast some big spells here. Since they're on the play, plus they have 1 piece of mana ramp, they'll be casting a 4 mana spell while I still only have 2 lands on board. So we could fall behind real quickly here. If they have a really impactful 4 or 5 mana spell and they play it a turn early while also being on the play, that could be bad. They are going to petrify the Crack Shot, that is going to slow the game down. And they're just going to crack the Buried Treasure for an Otaclan landmark. That is perfectly fine. Because if they flip that, just a 1/4 flyer, it only pings us for 1 damage a turn by itself. Alright, scry both to the top, so they like their draws. Got 3 mana now, but nothing to do with that 3 mana. Yeah, Petrify on Crackshot is going to play really nicely for our opponent this game. Normally I'd be very happy we got the Petrify out of the way on what is probably the literal weakest creature in our deck. I guess they didn't like Petrify a Cogwork Wrestler or something, but the weakest creature that we put in the deck to attack with. But here I'm a little less happy because it means we're doing nothing for the next several turns now, since we didn't have a 3 or 4 drop to follow it up with. Luckily, it looks like our opponent isn't doing anything either, so we're just hanging out, having ourselves a party. I could unlucky drop my own Crack Shot to get rid of the Petrify, but I'd have to skip a draw step to do that, so I'd be spending 2 cards. I'm spending the unlucky drop, and I'm spending my draw step, giving up on drawing this, and instead just redrawing that. So I don't think it's worth the 2 cards. 2 for myself just to pick up my Crack Shot again. Plus, the really cool thing about Unlucky Drop is they kind of have to put the card on bottom if I Unlucky Drop in response to them tapping the Waterlogged Hulk. So that could be cool. Alright. I don't think I'm going to do that, though, because I really want to do something for 5 mana, and I have several 4/4s here, so this 4/5 body is really important. So I am going to Unlucky Drop the Cave Worm just right now. so that I still have 5 mana up to cast one of these this turn. And I will cast no artifact engrave, so Master's Guide Mural. And now they just recast the Cave Worm. If they wanted to mill, they should have tapped the Hulk before we put the Cave Worm on top. So I guess they didn't want to mill here, or they just forgot. They might be done milling now that they're at Descend 4. They might be like, yeah, that's good enough. Alright, another Guide Mural. Well, that's a plan. I think I'd rather do that than crack the Courtyard, because now I really want to make it 7 mana. I'm not doing really well at crafting right now, like we don't have the extra artifacts to do that, but I do have 1 Cogwork Wrestler, so we can craft one of these Master's Guide Murals into a Manufactory soon-ish. Okay, yeah, they just didn't want to mill with the Hulk anymore. They didn't mill that turn either. They do not have an island engraved though, so if they want to craft it, they have to exile an island off of their board, which is rough for them. Alright, craft the landmark, exiling the waterlogged Hulk. We take those. They're just over it. They don't want to see the waterlogged Hulk anymore. They had plenty other options engraved, but I guess, yeah, it makes sense. If they crafted with something engraved, then the Cave Worm would no longer be a 4/5 and we could actually attack. So that explains that. There is the 7th mana. Maybe I should have slammed down the Wrestler there for no combat trick value, just so I could flip a Guide Mural this turn without losing something. Yeah. I mean, now I can flip a Guide Mural by sacking one of the 4/4s. I sack the 4/4 and get it right back, and then I just have the Guide Mural ready for the future. That's probably fine. Is this only at sorcery speed? No, I can do it instant speed. Okay, so sure. I'll exile one of the 4/4s and just replace it. And then when I play Cogwork Wrestler now in the future, I get a 4/4 the turn I play it. So I end up with like just as many 4/4s as if I had played this and then crafted it away this turn. It just takes longer to get my third 4/4. But Cogwork Wrestler will be an artifact hitting the board, which means I get another 4/4, and that'll be nice. We could actually end up with more 4/4s if I flip the other Guide Mural. Because then I make 2 4/4s next turn, and then the turn I play Cogwork Wrestler, I make 2 4/4s that turn as well. Yeah, double Manufactory is kind of crazy. Alright, opponent discovers into a confounding riddle. They can use that as a card draw spell or just put the counterspell in hand. And they do put the counterspell in hand. They don't have the mana up for it right now. But we do want to keep in mind that they can counter something unless we pay 4. It's an aggressive swing from our opponent. I'll absolutely crack back. And now that we've hit a Cogwork Wrestler, well, hit an island for the Cogwork Wrestler, I can flip this Guide Mural without losing a 4/4, and I think that is worth it, because they don't have the mana up for their counterspell, so we know this resolves. And then let's get 2 4/4s out of this. And that should be really hard for them to outrace. At 16 power on our board. Buried treasure again, spin that wheel, see what they hit. They find the 2/4 Thousand Moons Infantry. Cave Worm is sadly just a 2/5 again for them, because they exiled another hidden treasure. So they don't have the mana up for the riddle, so I do get to cast whatever this is. No, we keep that for a combat trick. I clicked the wrong button. Alright, they conceded anyway. I think I clicked the wrong button. So I clicked on it to cast it, and then I clicked cancel. I think that means it just ends up permanently in exile if I did that. I need to wait when I hit the discover. I need to wait on the first screen, then click draw specifically. If I want to draw it to my hand, I don't click on it and then click cancel, because that just leaves it in exile. I don't remember how the button presses work. But yeah, I should just put that in my hand so that I can attack with everybody, and whichever one they block with a 2/5, I kill with the acrobatic leap, and they're super dead. But our opponent concedes anyway. We are very far ahead because of the double manufactory, so probably going to be a win there regardless. So we are going to start things off 1-0 with a victory in round number 1. Here we are for round number 2 on the play again. I think I can keep this on the play. We have the Cosmium Blast if they slam down a 1-drop or 2-drop that's really aggressive, like a Goblin Tomb Raider or something. And then the Cloud Guard's really good at helping stabilize, giving us another blocker, 3/2 in the sky, a bunch of stuff like that. Okay, so here's Puzzle Door. So we go Puzzle Door, and then we blast the Yearling away, and then we Cloud Guard, and we're perfectly fine. If we were on the draw, we could be in a really, really bad position against a red-green Dinos deck with the 2-mana 3/2 trample here. But on the play, I think this all matches up perfectly fine for now. So there's a River Herald Guide. Dang, really wanted them to hit the land there. If they hit the land and that was just a 3/1 Vigilance, it would play so poorly against the Cloud Guard. Just the 1/1 Gnome token holding their 3-drop back would have been so good. Unfortunately for us, we don't hit the mana for that. And they've got the 2-for-1 Eatskeith. This is looking really gross. We can make up for some of this card disadvantage if we can survive long enough, thanks to the Master's Guide Mural and the Puzzle Door. Puzzle Door draws us a card, then Guide Mural spits out 4/4s once we have 7 mana. And Tinker's Tote should give us a good chunk of time to help survive. They could have +3/+3 trample trick here, the staggering size. I think I double block here, because if they don't have the trick, they only kill the 4/4, and if they do have the trick, we still kill that. Alright, now play the Cenote Scout. Hit a land that time, so the 1/1 is going to be great at holding that scout off of us. Axe Draw finds a Seed Stones, though. Oh, god, no. Alright. So let's crack the Puzzle Door, see what we find. We're likely to just play and sacrifice the Tinker's Tote, but just in case we find something better. Acrobatic Leap or Cartographer's Companion. So the Companion's another artifact to play with the Guide Mural later, but the Leap for a combat trick is nice, especially against potential green removal like fight spells and damage spells and stuff off Eatskeith. Maybe the wrong idea. I'm going to take the Acrobatic Leap, though, because it's just immediately impactful, potentially, because we get to hold it up right now. Whereas Companion, we're not going to do anything with the Companion until 2 turns from now. I should have played the Plane so I could sack Tote and use the Leap, but I don't need to sack Tote till the end step. And I've already got 2 artifacts in grave, so don't need to sack it this turn. It just would have been much better, more mana efficient in case I draw other things to do with my mana soon. This looks really bad, though. So what, I can have 4 power on this board? I can kill Eatskeith. That's really it. I guess, you know, I don't actually hate this, because I can kill Eatskeith and definitely still have all of my 1/1s. And then I can line up a 1/1 and a 4/4 against Axe Draw, and 2 1/1s on the Scout, and just fully block everything next turn. And that's how we stabilize. I really, really should have played the Plains last turn, though. Because then I'd be at 9 here, which is much safer if they do have like the +3/+3 trample trick or something here. But on board, our blocks are pretty excellent after that. And Saw Blades was an incredible draw. Alright, so I do think that Acrobatic Leap really did work out for us. I think Acrobatic Leap over the 2-1 Gnome was correct, but really should have had double white up. If we survive through this turn, then it won't matter, because I've got more than enough mana to play Saw Blades and sack this and gain 3. But if I die right here, it could very much just be because I didn't have the mana up to gain 3. Okay, we're not going to die here. Sorcery speed 7/7. All good with me. Not great with me, but perfectly fine. Because we can double block it with 2 4/4s. And I could even have held the Tinker's Tote to try to trick them and double block it with 2 4/4s. Saw Blades the Axe Draw, 2 4/4s on the Attendant. Because we can make an instant speed 4/4 the turn I flash in the Saw Blades. But I'm going to get that out of the way and make sure I have tons of blockers here. And we're just super, super stable. So this game is going to go long from here no matter what. I can sack both Totes and still have Saw Blades up. Sure, they can shoot a 4/4 and that lets them get an attack in with a 7/7, but I just block with a 1/1 then. Yeah, I think I just block with a 1/1 then, and then I go for the Manufactory double 4/4 trick next turn. That is hoping and assuming that they attack with another creature, though, so I can Saw Blade something else next turn. I don't want to Saw Blades while the Manufactory's tapped, though. I want to get another 4/4 off of this. Okay, Breaches could definitely convince them to attack with more creatures. So if they attack with Breaches, they shut off the 4/4 as a blocker, then I surprise them, kill Breaches, get a 4/4 as a blocker anyway. Crazy stuff like that. Could be good. And then next turn I untap, I flip the Saw Blades, I craft it into the Chariot, get another 4/4. Oh yeah, this is gonna be really gross if they haven't top decked a combat trick to go with all this. So, I think we want to Saw Blades Breaches, block Axe Draw with a 4/4 and a 1/1. No, it's better to just Saw Blade the Axe Draw and then block Breaches with a 4/4. Block their 2/2 with my 2/2 and chump the Attendant. Yeah. Yeah, that looks like a really good turn to me. They did not have the trick. And now I've got 2 4/4s to block the 7/7, and I'm going to get a third 4/4 when I flip the Saw Blades. And they just cracked the Nursery. See what they hit. Oh, it's a good one. Roaming Throne. 4/4, and if they get any dinos, they get to double trigger them. Or if they have a better card type, like if they have another Jade Heart Attendant, they could be like, well, double trigger my golems if I draw into Seed Stones again to double their life gain. We'll see what creature type they choose, and that could help us try to decipher what creatures they might be playing. Raccoon? I'm gonna have to go to Scryfall on that one. What? Advanced Search. Set Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Type line Raccoon. What are you doing? Oh, it picks up a permanent from grave, so they're going to pick up 2 permanents from grave with that? That's actually really gross. Okay. Okay, I see how it is then. None of their permanents are going to kill one of my creatures immediately, right? Eats Keenth is going to do 2 damage. It's not enough, though. Okay, so I don't need to worry about my creatures dying on blocks if they're just playing the Raccoon, so I can send in a 4/4 here and still have double 4/4s up. Let's do that. Obviously they don't want to trade the Thrown Off until they've used the Raccoon. Okay, then we're going to flip the Saw Blades with something from grave. Plenty of stuff to choose from. This means I've got another 5/5 on blocks as well. I actually probably should have sent in both 4/4s. I wasn't accounting for having the 5/5 vehicle on blocks for some reason. but I very much also have a 5/5 on blocks. Yeah, there's the raccoon. Okay. So, I mean, that's not good, but the manufactory's putting in work to keep us competing here with all this card advantage. Pick up the axe draw, pick up probably breaches. I guess breaches doesn't do a lot here. Eadskeith. Okay. That way they can kill a 4/4 when they play it next turn. Because the axe draw is going to be a 4/3 at least. Ooh. Alright, well I've got nothing bigger than a 4/4, so they're still only going to kill a 4/4 with Eadskeith. Hidden Courtyard, not a terrible draw. But I can't really do anything this turn. Now we can crack that any turn where we don't draw something. Alright, Monstrosaur. Inverted Iceberg is very much something. I think we play this over the course of 2 turns so that I can get a 4/4 each time. I don't love milling the Nautilus, because that would have been another 4/4, which would have been nice, but it is what it is. So since I'm not going to crack that this turn, let's crack the Courtyard instead. And if it hits an artifact, I'm just going to draw it. Cloud Guard. Put that in hand, because it will make an artifact. I'm just full value grinding out this manufactory to the best of my abilities here. Making sure I just go 1 artifact a turn. Plus, this lets me keep the flyers safe from their removal. Because that can very much be a win condition on this board state. No reach or flyers on their board. We've got plenty to keep their ground troops off of us, so if I just get a single flyer down, that can be a way to try to win this game. That'll be our way to actually damage our opponent. So yeah, now they're stuck deciding if they want to cash in the Eatskeith right now or not. So they are going to use the Monstrosaur to sack a land, draw a card. That's actually really good in a top deck war as well. That's kind of sketchy. Any extra lands they have, they can just filter them away to draw more cards. I wonder if you can get full art basics as the random mystery cosmetic reward in midweek Magic or something, because I've seen a lot of people using like one of their land types as full arts and the other is just like basic. I'm like, I don't think there's very many people who would choose different random favorites like that. Oh, that's a draw and a half. That is our win condition here. Double manufactory now. They don't have the board wipe. This is going to take a while, but we can just have like infinite 4/4s over time. Sure, Galleon is good. Another 2-for-1. They still can't really attack though. Yeah, so it goes to our turn. We now flip this guide mural and get 2 4/4s this turn. And then we play a Cloud Guard and get 2 4/4s, and we flip a 6/6 and get 2 4/4s. I think eventually we just end up with 5 more creatures than our opponent, and then we attack with everybody. Well, 5 more 4/4s than the number of creatures our opponents have. And yeah, 5 4/4s is 20 damage. So we need to get... We're gonna have 6 or 7 creatures on board. So we need like 11 4/4s, but I think we can get there. 11 4/4s are bigger. Let's get the Iceberg this time. See if they pop the removal on this so that we get to keep the Cloud Guard around. And start jamming in with that one. So if they don't use the removal on this, and I do get to attack with it next turn, then I get to attack in and untap a Manufactory the turn I play a Cloud Guard. So they kind of have to kill this. Whether I play the Cloud Guard or the Titan, like, they have to use removal on whichever one I play. Maybe I should have played the Cloud Guard, actually. Maybe Titan's actually a little spicier. I mean, it's only going to attack once, right? And then it's just going to trade into Monster Soar on board anyway. Ooh, start turning their lands into 7/7s? Got enough 4/4s to double block those, so if they can't kill the Cloud Guard, now I am much less likely to kill them on the ground, but the removal we knew of is gone, so we can try to kill them in the sky instead. Malcolm's a little awkward, because I don't really want to draw extra cards. I don't want to mill out before my opponent. But the fact that it's a flyer is good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 get in for 8 damage. No. I guess 3 get in because crack shot. 4 get in if I use the chariot. We're getting close to lethal. Okay, there's the idol to kill the Cloud Guard. That is not fun at all. What do I have left in my deck here? Got an Archaeologist, a Gem Guard, couple unlucky drops. Cogwork Wrestler. There's some good cards, but I think it is mostly lands now. Flash in Malcolm. I do think I am supposed to be attacking, even though it's going to guarantee that I mill out before my opponent. Right, we've got like 11 4/4s. 7. 8, because they activate a land. 8 minus... Well, let's see, 12 creatures minus 8 blockers. 12 minus... And it's still going to be 8 blockers, because whatever I tap with the crack shot is going to crew the galleon. 12 minus 8 is 4 getting through. That's 16 damage plus 2 from Malcolm. If I attack with all the 4/4s as well, and they have literally nothing that's lethal, I think I wait 1 more turn. Play it safe. Get them to 17, draw a discard, see if we hit an artifact. If we do, we should really, 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 really have lethal next turn. Okay, it's not an artifact, but it still is very, very much lethal next turn, I think. In fact, you know, because it's a flyer, actually, maybe I'm just not going for the wide board state lethal, and I'm still chipping it in the sky. Because the blocks are so safe in comparison to the attacks. Right, because if they have some random instant I wasn't thinking of, or I just do the math wrong or something, and I attack with everybody and leave no blockers up, I am very, very, very dead on board. Whereas the blocking's really easy, because we have so many more creatures than they do. Okay, Cogwork Wrestler. Super massive one. Send these 2 in. Thanks to Cogwork Wrestler, we'll have 2 more 4/4s hitting the board. Excuse me. Okay, we're Adaptive Gem Guard. I think I prefer Cogwork Wrestler because of the instant speed nature of it. Alright, they're digging. And then... At this point, unless they have a literal fog, which I don't think exists in this format, double manufactory trigger should get us there, because it's 12 4/4s or better, because we have the chariot and 11 4/4s. 2 more from manufactory this turn. 12, 13, 14, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 4 of them get through. That is well over lethal. Well over lethal. They only have 2 mana up. I don't think there's a fog in this format, a prevent all damage kind of spell. But if there is, I guess we die. If not, they're super, super, super dead. I'm not even going to do this, because if I do this, they just crew in response anyway. Okay, they're just going to take it. Fair enough. We'll start off 1-0 in round number 2. Really just carried by how great the manufactories are in a long game. All right. So we are against red-green. Kind of a dinos deck here. They've got the Eatskeith and some other dinos to shoot things, but it's also just good cards. You know, Magmatic Galleon, Jade Heart Attendant, big stuff. We're against beef, that's for sure. Actually quite like unlucky drops in this matchup. I think I'm going to put a third in. I didn't draw any of them this game, but I think they would have been pretty great. So let's put the third unlucky drop in. Out of Air might not be terrible as well. It is quite expensive at 4 mana. Even just at double blue, needing to be 2 mana of 1 color is rough, especially when it's our less represented color at 8 blue sources over 9 white sources. Yeah, I think I'm just going to put in another unlucky drop, and I'm not sure what I'm going to cut for it. Because I don't see anything that I don't like in this matchup. I like the Saw Blades, the Cosmium Blast, the Leap. Honestly, just really like our deck in general against theirs. Maybe I cut a land because we're going to be on the draw here, but I don't think that's the case either because we are a deck that really wants 7 mana. So even on the draw, I think 17 lands is fine for this. Just cut one of the crack shots, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, they still trade into our opponents like 2 mana 3/2, potentially. But they've also got 2/3s and 4/3s and a lot of stuff we'd have to stack up multiple blockers for it to matter. So maybe 2 mana 2/2, not the greatest thing in the universe. Okay, here we go. Keeping this hand pretty much just because of Saw Blades. With the Saw Blades, we know we can survive at least a little while. Tendril of the Myco-Tyrants. That's the kind of card that's going to take over a long game. I think I'm just going to crack the puzzle door here, because if we get a 3/2 like Glorify of Suffering on the board, we could have Cogwork Wrestler trick and kill the Myco-Tyrant without losing anything. So I don't think I'm going to spend a Saw Blades on it this early. Might be wrong. Reaches. Okay. Well, I'm glad I didn't spend the Saw Blades. We're going to spend it on that, though. We are certainly going to spend it on that. Crackshot would let me go Crackshot plus Wrestler, which is very appealing to me. But I am at 4 out of 5 mana for Archaeologists, and I do have to just hold up Saw Blades next turn anyway. So we hold up Saw Blades, then we hold up Unlucky Drop, or we play Glorifier plus Wrestler. You actually already have a lined up Wrestler play. Turn 4 Glorifier plus Wrestler is the play to get tricks going. And yeah, this gives us a turn 5 play. I think we need the turn 5 play. Alright, we gotta kill Breaches here, which triggers when it attacks, so they're gonna get to draw a card or get a treasure token even if we kill it immediately, which is a little sad. But we've gotta kill it immediately. No +3/+3 trick, please. We didn't see any last game, and we saw most of their decks, so hopefully they just don't really have staggering size. And it looks like they don't. No +3/+3 trample there. I should have tapped out a blue so that Arena wasn't snitching on me here with Cogwork Wrestler. Alright. I guess now I could play Gem Guard instead of Glorifier plus Wrestler. Gem Guard already holds off the Tendril. And then I could save Glorifier for when I actually get its trigger. Yeah, but I don't want them to just like use removal on Gem Guard. That would be pretty bad. They use removal on Glorifier, that is A-okay, and they can't attack in unless they do. Okay, yeah, that is much better than them galleoning the Gem Guard. It's also pretty bad, though, because that is double incredible 2-for-1 rare. Like, even if we stop both these cards, they've already 2-for-1'd us, because they did the Exile card draw, now they've done the Galleon. Kill a creature even if I kill the Galleon. Alright, well, this is not looking great. We're kind of just getting bombed out. So now they're going to smack us with a 5/5. Like, I could unlucky drop it, but then they just blow something up again, which is quite bad. Double block with Archaeologists and a Wrestler. That could be pretty good. Monstrosaur. That, I believe... Okay, that's a really good draw. I was going to unlucky drop that. And then hold up Wrestler, but now I'm just going to make a 4/4 and hold up Wrestler. And then we find double blocks very well with these. -2, that's still 4 power. God, that lines up so well. Exactly enough power that Wrestler doesn't do anything about this. Dang, the Eats King for another 2-for-1 is not what we wanted to see. This hand's insane from our opponent all around. This is just busted. Crew the Galleon. They still have more removal? Oh my god. Yeah. It's not removal, but it's menace damage now? Alright. Well, I mean, we're quite dead. If I make the Galleon smaller, I can double block without losing my 4/4. If I make the Monstrosaur smaller, it doesn't do anything. I double block it and still lose the 4/4. If I make the Myco Tyrant smaller, then I can double block the Monstrosaur, lose both my creatures, and also just take 5 this turn. I don't think there's any line to surviving 2 swings. The closest is probably to do this, where I only lose 1 creature on this double block still, even if I don't reduce damage there. Because in order to survive 2 turns, I'm going to need so many creatures still on this board, but also a higher life total than 1. Yeah, there's just nothing to be done here. Yeah, no, that was just insane stuff from our opponent. They have a very high quality deck. We did not stand much of a chance against that many incredible 2-for-1 cards. Multiple bomb rares that game with the 2-for-1 Dino as well. I mean, we saw all those cards game 1 as well, and we managed to beat them. I guess a good chunk of that was having the double Manufactory going. But, I mean, that game we didn't even survive till the mana to flip a Manufactory, even if we had both. So, I guess a big part of that is being on the play versus being on the draw there. Being on the draw slowing us down a chunk, so... Yeah, let's hope the play-draw advantage goes in our favor here, and just being on the play again gives us another victory to try to sneak on by at 2-1 this round. Yeah, run it back. Unkeepable opener, unfortunately. This hand is not great, but I don't think we can mull it to 5. All right. Multiple tricks here. Cogwork Wrestler and an Acrobatic Leap to play around with. Nothing from our opponent so far, even turn 2. They've got an instant of some kind, probably the Mountain Cycler, so they've got the 6/5 Dino in there. for the top end of the curve. Yep. Well, now they don't have it for the top end, but they did have that in hand. Idol of the Deep King. Annoying, but not horrific. Because Crackshot's not the most impactful card ever. I agree with this from Auto Tapper. Hold up the leap over the Wrestler. Plus there's no suspicion this way. If I hold up a white source, ew. If I hold up a blue source and Arena is still holding for me, they're gonna be like, what? It's not a blue ability on Tinker's Tote. Now we do nothing. I guess I can play... No, I can't. I don't have double blue. If I had double blue, I could play Nautilus and then Wrestler in response to them trying to kill it with Eatskeith. But now if I play Nautilus, that just gives them a good target. I'd have to Acrobatic Leap in response, and I don't really want to spend Acrobatic Leap like that if I can avoid it. But then they just get to hold on to this and cast the rest of their hand. Because then they're just not going to kill a 1-1 with Eatskeith. Yeah, I mean, neither is good for us. Having to spend Acrobatic Leap to save this, or playing nothing this turn, they're both bad. I will go for the nothing this turn, though, because they can't exactly attack in at all here. Oh, they're just going to play it anyway? I guess then they actually get to attack in on board, right? Because then they have... a 5-4 against 3 1-1s. I was gonna say, I'm gonna let that happen here because we have the tricks to, like, kill whatever they send in for free. Could have their card that picks this up from graveyard, but I can't just, like, chump it all day. Or take a load of damage off of it. I'm gonna get the free kill on it, even if it means they could have the raccoon pick it up later. Alright, Cloud Guard's a great draw. Wish I had one more mana. I'd feel a lot safer about running it out against a deck with idols and Eatskeith and stuff, but I think I still have to just run it out. Wow. Okay. Well, that explains the quantity of Eatskeiths we've been seeing, but that is also incredibly frustrating. Of all the cards, if it was just a Braid, I'd be like, dang, that sucks. But second Eatskeith, just an absolute dream deck here from our opponent. This thing is insane. God, now they definitely have the raccoon in hand, but I'm not just taking 3 Eternal game either. There's another monster soar. Very large. An unlucky drop for it. Another pathfinding axe draw. Let that resolve. If I put the monster soar on top in response and make sure they don't draw a card, they don't get to like hit a land there, which is kind of cute. I probably should have done that. I forgot Twists and Turns flips on 7. Yeah, that would have been good. Twists and Turns is the only thing that would have made unlucky dropping the monster sword there good. Because otherwise, like, I don't really want this axe draw to be any bigger. I don't really want it to have the +1/+1 counter. But because Twists and Turns flips on the 7th land, we really wanted them to not draw the 7th land. Very surprised by no attacks. They have great attacks on board. Just playing it super safe, I guess. Alright. I mean, I feel like this game's been over for a little while now, since the second Eatskeenth. But we'll do our best. Yeah. And that's exactly enough to beat an Acrobatic Leap because they've got... Well, they've got 8 lands, so it's even more than enough. Okay. There's the Seed Stones again. At least I get to remove some +1/+1 counters from their board when I unlucky drop now. It's pretty sweet. I don't think we have any good blocks. Best we can do is probably kill a 4/3 here. I do remove more counters by putting the axe draw back on top. Probably better. Get more counters off their board. Doesn't really matter because they still have another 7/7 off the Seed Stones. I think it matters where we put this. Malcolm's something. Don't think Malcolm's gonna be quite enough, but the fact that Malcolm draws and discards every single turn can help. I guess we don't really have time for that though, because of the giant trampler. Yeah, maybe we had to mill Malcolm here too. I don't even know what we're looking for if we do mill Malcolm. It's like a guide mural, but even that is just like, I make a 4/4 and it chumps. I don't think there's anything in the deck that recovers from this at this point. There's the Galleon again. Gem Guard. 7 power trample. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's dead. Find something better. I don't think there is anything better, and a Plains is certainly not it. That is game. Rough match there. Yeah, rough round altogether, just getting outclassed on multiple facets. Our opponent had the higher card quality, being able to pick up multiple bomb rares throughout their draft. That got us pretty bad. As well as the Eatskeenths as really premium 2-for-1 removal spells to kind of tie our Masters Manufactories as premium uncommons in power level. So it feels like if they had 0 bomb rares, our decks would be like matching in power level, because our 2 Manufactories versus 2 Eatskeenths are pretty equivalent in value. But the Galleon, the Breaches, were doing some really gross things, so outclassed in power level and outclassed a little bit in draws there. Had to mulligan in a couple of those games. I don't think our opponent had to at all. So, yep, just a bit behind in all aspects, and it's going to be 1-1 heading into round 3. Here we are on the play for the final round with a forced mulligan to start things off, and a pretty bad second hand. It's monocolored. At least we get to start things off with Tinker's Tote into Oltec Cloud Guard, but it's also prematurely a bit flooded here if we don't find some of our high mana value spells like Inverted Iceberg and Master's Manufactory.
So not a big fan of our luck starting out this round, but I do not think we're mulliganing to 5. I probably should have played the island. Doesn't really matter yet. I was just getting the motions, trying to get the start of the game going real quick. A call but call. Alright, well that's like a 12 for 1. Rare. Kind of have to play Cloud Guard. They're not going to attack with that at all to get it to where it could die to a Saw Blades. That would be our only hope of stopping it from drawing infinite cards for our opponent. But I just do not see them ever tapping that thing into open mana. Because we could just have combat tricks. We could have exile tapped creatures and destroy tapped creatures style removal. Alright. Yeah, this looks like a loss. Pretty mediocre hand to start with, and we are running up against the double rare. One of these, an incredible card draw engine to keep our opponent fueled throughout this game, keeping them way ahead in card advantage. And the other one just being the massive threat they need to actually close out the game and kill us. Very strong start from our opponent against one of our deck's more mediocre openers. There's an Ever-Flowing Well as well, which is going to make the souls even bigger and draw our opponent more cards and give them another 2-for-1 draw off of the Akalpa Call. Dang, these last couple rounds are just going to be us exploding from all the rares, sadly. I could try to send my whole board under the Souls of the Lost and play Saw Blades to kill it. Kind of hoping we can just find the card that puts it back on top of their deck instead. Oh my god, and they've already flipped the Myriad Pools as well. Just feels like another Magical Christmas Hand dream draw. Oh my god. This is like the 4th rare in 2 turns. Not really. It's the 3rd rare. But, oh no, it is the 4th rare, because the Myriad Pools is rare as well. But because it gets duplicated, it feels like the 5th rare. I guess the duplicate doesn't actually do anything. Oh my god. Wait a second. Does it let them craft to the 6/6 for only 2? Oh my god! Oh! I mean, what do you do about this? They play the Iceberg, make it a copy of the Braided Net, which then crafts for only 2 instead of 6, so they get the 6/6 down for 4 mana total instead of 8 mana total. Ay, ay, ay. Alright, I mean, at this point, I'm basically just gonna scoop here. I'm just gonna lose my whole board to attempt to kill the souls and then get tricked by something. Definitely do this before that triggers and makes their graveyard bigger. Alright, they had the instant speed descend card to completely demolish us if we tried to blades the souls. That's insane. Like, feels like the actual perfect dream draw. They've definitely got some cards that are awkward to hit at the wrong time, but they milled all of them. All these lands and these big high mana value spells can be awkward without the Descend to support to go with them. Really, the Akalpa Call, absolute MVP for our opponent. Made sure our opponent hit exactly what they needed and filled that graveyard really quickly for all the Descend stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we had a awkward start to begin with, but even a great start from a great deck is going to have a really hard time competing against that. That was insane. I think that's what Wizards hoped that the Descend archetypes could get to do consistently in this format, to compete some of the quicker, more aggressive, and consistent decks. Because that makes Descend look like the best deck in the format. Don't really have a sideboard. Because, I mean, that was a pretty quick game. I don't think, like, trying to get to 8 mana to Discover 10 is going to help us at all. I don't think another Unlucky Drop's going to help us, really, because I'll just redraw the rare and demolish my soul. They're not really, like, the kind of cards that need to kill us quickly to win. They're also just incredible card advantage cards, so if I slow them down with Unlucky Drop, that doesn't actually help me that much. Whereas last round against the red-green deck, the Unlucky Drop buys us a lot of time against the more aggressive kind of giant dinos and things. Yeah, I'm just going to run it back and hope for a much better game from our deck this time, and a much weaker one from their deck. Alright, we at least get to keep a 7-card hand here. 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, and our opponent does take 2 mulligans here. 3 mulligans. Well, it is going to be a much stronger game from our deck, a much weaker one from our opponent. That is what I was hoping for. Not exactly like this. Opponent on a mull to 4. Because now it's just going to be super embarrassing when I inevitably lose to the Akalpakal again. But to be fair, if they do resolve something like Akalpakal, the whole point and what makes it so strong is that it draws so many cards. So, like, all they need is one Akalpakal in their 4-card hand, and they're going to be up in card advantage over time against us. Even on a mull to 4, they can get ahead. I don't think I dump all my mana into just getting 2 damage here. Let's get the Tinkerstote down. Oh boy. Here we go. I will trade a 1/1 for a 1/4. Very happily. Alright, we gotta outrace them. Guardian of the Great Door looks like a solid way to try to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would have to tap all but 1 card. I think I attack with the Crack Shot here and don't tap. I don't think our opponent should ever block against an opponent doing something like this. Yeah. I guess if they knew the format extremely well, they'd probably block there. Because I don't actually think blue and white have access to any instance that will buff my Thousand Moons Crack Shot up 3 extra power there. Or is going to do like 3 damage to their untapped Akalpakal. No, they've got a Larcenist too? That's the 6th rare, 5th rare, because they duplicated one. Yeah, that's the 5th rare we've seen, and it's incredible. Removal spell on a stick on a card that's really hard to target as well. Oaken Siren. Somehow didn't see any of these in our draft pod, which makes me pretty sad. Oaken Sirens would have been fantastic additions to this deck. And we've been managing to get to the 7 for the Guide Murals without them, but they also chip in for damage throughout the game really well. And most importantly for our opponent here, they're also artifacts for Akalpakal. Puzzle Door. I guess I could sack the Guardian of the Great Door to flip the Guide Mural, but I've got a couple removal spells that'll work on a Larcenist, so I don't think I should do that. I think I should keep this treasure around until we find something to deal with Larcenist. Alright, Cloud Guard's not removal, but it's just a good card in general, so let's cast it. Okay. You know what? I should have held that. I was already threatening to combat Trick Akalpakal. I should have held that for main phase 2 and actually attacked with the 4/4. Threatening to have a trick to kill Akalpakal like we were threatening it with a Crack Shot earlier. And then we might have been able to sneak in some damage. Well, it's another triple rare game. Akalpakal, Larcenist, Braided Net. Now the Braided Net's going to Ice Manipulator us, locking down our best threat every turn. And again, most importantly, it's another artifact to go with a Call Call, so they've now drawn 2 cards out of a Call Call, almost completely making up for the Moldifor by now. I mean, draw 2 cards of your choice out of the top 4 is probably slightly better than draw 3 cards, so if you think of it that way, they've kind of already completely made up for the Moldifor. Yeah, I can start spitting out a million 4/4s. I'm gonna die in the sky, even with a bunch of 4/4s on the ground. I guess the only way they kill the Cloud Guard right now is to trade Larcenist in. Bold. But I didn't threaten the combat trick every turn after that first crack shot attack, so stopping bluffing it kind of makes it seem like, wait, you don't actually have the trick, do you? And it's true, I don't. Lord, do I wish I did, though. I do have it in the deck. Alright. Trading to Larcenist, get our 4/4 flyer back. Now the Braden Net starts locking down the flyer. But I think we manufactory here. Maybe I should have manufactured the tote. So archaeologists could pick up the card draw and look for removal, but we only really wanted removal for the Larcenist anyway. We don't have removal that matters against the Call. So we actually don't really want a top deck removal anymore. It would still be a good card to pick up with archaeologists. Probably a little better than picking up a Tinker's Tote. But picking up a Tinker's Tote still lets us play more artifacts later for the manufactory, so it's fine. Glorifier of Suffering. Makes me moderately happy to still have this Tinker's Tote on board, so I can sack it to a Glorifier instead of to gain 3. Then I make both these 4/4s 5/5s, and they do get to attack into a Call. Guess they can Braided Net one of them. Alternatively, I sack the Tote to gain 3 and then use Archaeologist this turn. I think Glorifier is a little better than that. Nothing else to do with my mana, so I probably send in the crack shots too. The only way they kill it is by letting me trade into an Oaken Siren, which is fine with me. Get some stuff out of the sky here. Yep, I like this trade. Chart a course, full on draw 2. There's a puzzle door, which draws 2 off of, well, draws 1 out of the top 2 off of a Call and 1 out of the top 2 off the puzzle door. So kind of a draw 2 here. They are now ahead in card advantage, despite me starting with 7 and them starting with 4. Ooh, Acrobatic Leap is definitely a card. Don't have the mana to play the Tinker's Tote when I pick it up with Archaeologists, which is awkward. Have to wait to play it till next turn. Lodestone Needle. Does this work during my turn too? Each player's end step? Come on. Well, it's pretty filthy. The way that stun counters work is if I acrobatic leap this one, it's still going to be tapped. It'll just have one less stun counter on it. Oh wow, I should have been able to... I guess I have the full control mode if I wanted to leap that untapped and then attack with it here. That's kind of annoying. I don't think I was going to do that in the end, but really annoying that it's not going to let me have that option. Alright, a call popping off. Now, the really sad part is, like, even if I had incredible interaction, blue and white just can't deal with a call. I can petrify it, and then it still keeps doing its thing. And that's, like, the best blue or white removal spell in the set. We are just not well positioned against this, so running up against it 2 games in a row is gonna be rough. It's definitely a way to lose a match, potentially. Could acrobatic leap to kill this siren, but I think I'm trying to find lethal off it somewhere, somehow, some way. Gem guard over the tote. I think I played gem guard over the totes. Oh, they didn't tap anything here. Okay. I was just going into full control mode, trying to do that in time, just in case we did want to untap something. I think we have to use this when they go for a block, though, to kill a call. Or to have our creature just win against the Council of Echoes. Okay, what's better here? It's probably better at this point in the game to keep our biggest threat on board than it is to kill a call. Because we're really stuck here just trying to lethal them quickly. And it's easier to do that if we still have a 4/4 flyer. They've only got one more braided net counter to tap something. Could be wrong. I'm going to save the Guardian, though. They're going to concede. Okay. The hand must have been really bad, because that was not near lethal. I mean, our board states was going to be really big, going for the counterattack in the next turn, so they'd have to be able to establish some blockers, but I don't think, from our perspective, the game wasn't over yet. But obviously, we don't know what's in their hand. I'm very surprised we managed to pull that one out, because that call is just an issue and a half here. All right, well, run it back on the draw. Run it back on the draw. Game 3 it is of the final round. Here we are for Game 3 of the final hat. Here we are for the final game of the final round. Our opponent's on the play. We know we have a 2-drop and a 3-drop. We're just really wanting to draw an island in the first few turns. We're on the draw to help get there. I am going to keep this one. Probably our riskiest keep so far. But I'm tired of mulliganing today. Alright, Hermetic Nautilus, turn 2. Still got time to get this blue source. We've got 2 more turns of action here with Glorifier, Tote into Glorifier. For turn 3 and turn 4. We find the blue source for Malcolm. Ooh. Let's say if we find the blue source for Malcolm before we cast Glorifier, that'll be really nice. Crackshot's just going to bounce off the Nautilus. There's an Oaken Siren. They want to trade. That is super cool with me. They do not. They don't dump the mana into it for that. Another white source is pretty awkward. We've got 7, 8 permanents on board. So I could attack with somebody. There's really no point in attacking here, though. Nothing's getting in. Bounce off the Nautilus. A 1/1 dies to Siren. Yeah, we just tap everybody for the Guardian. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the white source up to sack this Tinker's Tote so we have it in the graveyard for crafting. Or for picking up with our archaeologists. Lodestone Needle are gonna stun that bad boy real quick. Oop. Trying to click spacebar to get through my turn. And spacebar auto all attacks. Take one in the sky here. Drop a Hoverstone Pilgrim. Alright, that card doesn't do a whole ton, but it is big enough to block Guardian without the Glorifier counters. Wait, why did I forget I have to sack something for Glorifier? No, I have to sack a 1/1. Probably still fine, but yeah, I really should have just sacked the Tote to the Glorifier. But yeah, these 1/1s aren't doing anything right now, and they probably won't be later, so it all pans out fine. I'm not putting a counter on Malcolm because a 3/2 flyer still doesn't get through the Pilgrim anyway, so I'd rather just have the ability to play Malcolm at instant speed. Guardian's really the only creature that I think it really matters that we're putting a counter on here. I guess I'll put one on Glorifier, though. 4/3 does seem moderately threatening. Because the Hoverstone Pilgrim does not have Vigilance. Alright, there's the card draw, the Everflowing Well, mill 2, draw 2. Great card. Mills their Braided Net, so we don't have to deal with that this game. But that also means they've got 2 artifacts engraved for craft with artifact cards. Send in the Oaken Siren, send in the Hoverstone Pilgrim. I sure will take 2, 3, sorry. And then I'll play Malcolm and hold up the Cogwork Wrestler so that the Malcolm can attack into the Oaken Siren. Or they could also tap the Oaken Siren to flip to the Compass, and then we don't even need Wrestler up. Cool. Cosmium Blast, actually pretty solid. Is it worth holding that up instead of playing the Hidden Courtyard? Probably not here, because I don't think I'm casting it during their turn on their next attack right now. I guess we also want to wait to see what we draw off Malcolm. Crackshot? Okay, I don't really want Crackshot at all anyway. I'm going to discard Crackshot and then just use the Courtyard and see what we find. Discover 4 here. Well, that's a goodie. That's a great one. Oh my god, that might have been the best card in the deck to discover. That was incredibly lucky. I mean, they have the 2/5 flyer set up to block it, so I guess it's not like mega incredible. Well, there's the Larcenist too. I'm very ready to Cosmium Blast the Larcenist, though. The problem is, yeah, 2/3. Their stat lines are so good against these. 2/5 on the 3/2, 2/3 on the 2/1. I can Cosmium Blast the Larcenist then in response to that, but I'm still going to lose one of these creatures for nothing. I guess it's not for nothing. I have to lose the Cloud Guard to save the 5/5 flyer, which is worth it. I've got the Wrestler, but I don't think I have the mana because it's Ward 2 and Ward 1. I'd have to have 3 extra mana here. I need 1 more mana to play Cosmium Blast, pay for the ward, and play Wrestler and pay for the ward. Which is awkward. Well, now I've drawn a replacement Cloud Guard. And I also have to think about what if they Guidestone Compass onto the Pilgrim and it becomes a 3/6. Then I'm just trying to draw one of my 2 bounce spells. I don't think I can wait the turn here when they've got Compass and something else might be happening. Yeah. I'm going to sack one of the flyers to Get the larcenist out of here. Well, I guess it doesn't work if they do that. That's annoying. It's annoying, but then I kill the other two, I guess. Because now I don't have to pay for the larcenist ward. Yeah, getting Pilgrim out of here is still a big deal. Hello, Arena? Okay, there we go. I was getting real worried. Like, let's not disconnect right now. That'd be a very sad way to end the final game. No way. Another Pilgrim. Well, that's pretty gross. Cloud Guard doesn't even matter till Pilgrim's out of the way, so I'm just going to see what we hit off of Iceberg. Mill and Archaeologist hit the second island for the Iceberg. Could be something. Craft the Iceberg here, and that's all we got. Board stalls are really bad for us in this matchup because they have so many great rares they can find. And I guess they already found 4 of them. Larcenous Souls, Everflowing Well, and Braided Net. And I guess they are getting to the point where if they find a Call Pakal, it could mill them out too quickly, but their board's pretty dang big. So I think if they find a Call Pakal, they just get enough action to outrace us before they mill themselves again. Find a Grasping Shadows. Actually pretty gross here, because they're kind of in a position where they can just attack with 1 creature a turn for a while and just have a 6/6 Death Touch lifelink attacker. Yep, the giant beef of Souls of the Lost plus Titan. Ripping out our biggest creatures with Larcenist and a Waylaying Pirate Stun means they are favored on board and they get to send in some giant swings here. And there's not much we can do. Probably want to try to kill the Souls of the Lost before it gets any bigger, like over anything else. Take a chunk of damage here. Sick. Well, that went as poorly as possible. Oh, and I should have put it on bottom. Forgot it was asking me where I want to put it instead of them. But I guess the +1/+1 counters aren't terrible here. We have a 3 toughness flyer and the Pilgrim can't send in anymore. Probably would have been better to draw blind by a little bit, but not a ton. We actually might not want to counter on Malcolm. Because it's still 2 toughness with a counter on it, which isn't great. I'd probably just rejuice the Glorifier against the Souls. But then they just Iceberg Titan down that one. Yeah, we're just so dead. Yep. There's the Grasping Shadows for the life gain. They get to basically send in the team if they want and stun Glorifier or Cloud Guard. They've got a deadweight coming up for Malcolm. They get to send in the lifelinking Iceberg Titan. Oh, they're just going to untap it to itself? I guess I have to lose Malcolm to kill this, but then they don't have a deadweight target anymore, at least. Oh, we're just stuck getting 2 for 1 every turn. If getting 2 for 1 by card draw and rares wasn't enough. Now we're having a double block and 2 for 1 ourselves. And then Hoverstone Pilgrim, make sure they don't mill out because they had the second copy. So even if they do like find a call and do crazy stuff. What are you doing? You put my lands back on bottom? Okay. I'm not gonna make it there. I guess so if I shuffle my library, I might redraw land, but it's a land that discovers anyway, so it's nowhere near as bad as redrawing a basic. That was just kind of weird. I guess because they have so many Descend cards in their deck, they're like, I gotta keep my opponent off Descend, but I'm like, I don't have Descend in here. My number of permanents engraved does not matter. I guess it would have kind of made sense if I had like an artifact in there. Keep me off some craft with artifact cards. Alright, so now they just have a call. They've got the Pilgrim alongside a call to make sure they never mill out. They have selective card draw. They've got the bigger board state by a whole ton. That could be a 3/6 or a 6/3. God, this is so bad. I trade Cloud Guard and 2 1/1s into it, or I trade Iceberg Titan into it, or I take 6 and they gain 6. Or I chump. Just keep throwing the board away. I mean, we can probably concede now that they have an Akalpa call down with Pilgrim. But I'll play it out. Should only be another turn or 2 by now. Just monumentally outclassed this time in terms of bomb rares. Just another insanely explosive deck here. Very surprising they dropped around. Maybe they played against something just really hyper aggro and couldn't set up the card draw till then, but this is a 3-0 deck in my opinion, but they are in the 1-1 bracket. Unless traditional draft matchmaking doesn't pair you exactly, like sometimes you get paired up or paired down, which might happen, I don't know. Maybe we got paired up, but this deck's insane. Just feeling sorely outclassed today with my 0 rares. Well, no, we've got one. We've got Malcolm. We've got our little teeny baby rare, Malcolm. Still feeling sorely outclassed with 1 rare. Especially this round. Last round it was just 2 rares from our opponent, I think, but they were both very good. Guess we kill that. They have 6 cards left, but they have 1,000,000 mana up for this Hoverstone Pilgrim. 4 cards left, but they have still 1,000,000 mana up for Hoverstone Pilgrim. Okay. I don't think they'll accidentally mill themselves, but they are playing with fire here, going as close as possible. 2 cards left. Yeah, but they've got 8 mana up. They put 4 cards back on bottom. All right. It's time to go 1 and 2. All right, I'm just going to concede here because they're going through the motions and we're just dead doing all attack next turn anyway, so it's going to be like another minute to die. But there's no way out of this one. Well, unfortunately, that is going to be 1 and 2 today, but here's a final look at the deck. Again, I think this deck's pretty good. I think it's slightly above average for the format. For a blue-white deck, because of how powerful of an archetype this is, it is a little bit below average. I would say this is basically your average blue-white deck, except with no bombs. Like, we didn't manage to find any really explosive rares. Malcolm is a good rare, but not like a super bomby one or anything. So, yeah, I'd say it's a little below average in power level, but that is almost entirely just due to the lack of just haymaker kind of cards. Like, we've still got double Masters Manufactory being excellent in the late game, and they played super well. Overall, the deck as a whole played pretty well. We've definitely got some filler cards. That is going to happen a lot in these colors. They're pretty contested pretty often, but I still think out of our draft pod, this is about the strongest deck I think we really could have ended up with without just omniscient visions of the future, like knowing exactly what we would have opened and passed every time. I think still navigated the draft pod pretty well. Ended up with a perfectly solid deck, just got a little bit outclassed in those last 2 rounds. Actually really outclassed in terms of card quality with some really explosive bombs coming in hot round 2 and round 3 and ruining our day. But again, our deck played fine, played pretty consistent, and even against those really explosive decks in the final rounds, we still kept it as tight as possible, going 1 and 2 each time, getting a victory against those pretty wild decks. So we tried our best, we did what we could with the cards we were given, but it's just not quite enough against some explosive decks. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for supporting the channel, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.